We are going to have a treat this morning. We are going to meet Sam Acho in person and have a fireside chat here today. He is a tremendous individual, and we are grateful for his joining us today. He is an ESPN analyst, former Chicago Bears player, and author. He is also, again, a very passionate person about change, and you'll find out more today about that. There's going to be a banner outside and some pre-release books that you are able to purchase today, a limited amount of those books for Sam. After we talk today, he will be available outside the ballroom for you to buy a book and for him to sign it. He'll be highlighting so many things that he's passionate about. He has a grassroots program in the Austin neighborhood of Chicago. You'll be able to hear today how he came together with others to transform one liquor store into a vital food access business designed, run, and approved by the community. He will remind us that change happens when a community unites. Moreover, that everyone can create change in a small or large way if they have passion. Let's welcome Sam. Thank you so much. All right, let's start. Can I ask you first, where were you Monday night?
So for those college football fans, I'm an ESPN college football and NFL analyst. So Monday night I was at the national championship game, but not only was I at the game, I was actually on the sideline with all the players, right? So I felt like I was back playing again. Georgia blew out TCU. It was 65-7. I left at halftime, put it that way. I had great seats and I left at halftime. That's how bad the game was.
So great seats for sure. Okay, so your background, where did you grow up? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I grew up in Dallas, Texas. My parents are from Nigeria, and so they were born and raised in Nigeria, and they came to the United States, and I got a chance to, my sister was born in Virginia. I have two sisters and a younger brother, and I was born in Dallas, and though we were born in Dallas, a few things happened. Number one, every year in Christmas, we would go to Nigeria, to the different villages that my parents grew up in. And so even though I grew up in this, in America, I had this Nigerian kind of background, but then even separately, I went to this school in, initially I went to a school in South Dallas. So think South side of Chicago or West side of Chicago. That was a school in the church that I went to growing up. And then around the second grade or so, I switched schools. I went to a school in the nicer part of town. And even growing up, I saw these disparities, not only here locally in America, but I saw them internationally. And I was 6, 7, 8 years old at the time. It didn't really click. But as I started to get older, things started to click a little bit more. So I grew up in Dallas, went to this academically, the number one rated school in the nation, got a chance to go play football at the University of Texas. And I don't think we would have lost 65-7. I did play in a national championship game. We lost by a lot, but it wasn't that bad. I went to UT, and then I got a chance to go to play in the NFL, and I played 9 years in the NFL. And since then, I retired right before the 2020 season, right before COVID. And since then, I've spent time with ESPN and also started a nonprofit addressing injustice, sometimes food injustice that you'll hear about in Chicago.
So let's go back there to those early roots, your family connection. And then we talked earlier this morning about when you knew you were gifted.
Well, Rita, I got to correct you. So we were talking this morning. She said, hey, when did you know you were a superstar? And I'm like, superstar? Like, who's a superstar? And my response to you this morning was, I think I'm just finding out now. And you looked at me sideways, like, what do you mean? Like, you played almost a decade in the NFL. The average career is 3 years. You went to a national championship game. You work at ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. What do you mean you're just finding out now? What I mean by that is during the pandemic, we talked about it, like everything was closed and there was like social injustice, like there was like racial disparities you saw. Talk about access. Think about places where you don't even have food in your neighborhood. So we saw that going on. Sports were canceled. And so it was during that time I got a chance to realize a different kind of superpower that I had that had nothing to do with my occupation, nothing to do with football, nothing to do with the NFL. And so, and I'm still, I mentioned to you, I said, I'm still learning how to use my wings. And I think we'll hear more about that as we go.
Yeah, and the key you said was listening.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. How did you, start the conversations? What were they like? And tell us about how things started for you in Chicago.
Definitely. So I mentioned I went to the NFL. So I got drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. I spent 4 years with the Arizona Cardinals. And after 4 years there, I was a free agent. So I got a chance to maybe pick what team I was going to go to, or maybe they would pick me. It sometimes depends. And one of the things that I really wanted was I wanted to go to a place that had more need. Phoenix and Scottsdale is great, but I wanted to go somewhere where not only would there be a bigger opportunity on the football field, I wanted three things, right? So one, I wanted an opportunity to play, start for my team. I wanted an opportunity to make an impact in the community, which Chicago provides. And then I wanted good weather, which Chicago did not provide, but I did. 2 out of 3 is not bad. And so I came to the Bears and really just got entrenched in the Chicago community, made friends with different people and got to know the community. And you mentioned essentially it was 2020, COVID happened. Sports are canceled. And then we saw like George Floyd was killed. Ahmaud Arbery was killed. Athletes are sitting there saying, we got to do something. Like, what do we do? Everyone want to do something, but athletes are saying, man, this is like, we got to do something. We're ready to protest. We're ready to post a tweet at the president, right? Reach out to politicians. We want to do something. And I reached out to a friend of mine who runs a nonprofit in Chicago. And I said, hey, what do you need us to do? Because we're ready. Like, whatever you need, I got a team of people, we're going to do it. And she said, Sam, honestly, all we need right now is for people to come and listen. I'm like, what? Listen? She's like, yeah, listen to our kids. We have kids in our communities who are hurting right now. Kids who look like you, who are hurting. So I was like, okay, well, when can we like run through a brick wall? She said, no, just come and listen. And so I said, all right, great. So talk about these superpowers. One thing I'm known for is just like, I love people and getting to know people and meeting people. And so I reached out to a couple of friends of mine who are in the Chicago community. So Mitch Trubisky and Allen Robinson from the Bears, right? They were teammates of mine. I said, I don't know what we're going to do, but we got to do something. They said, okay, Sam, we're in. I reached out to Jason Hayward and Jason Kipnis from the Cubs. Got to do something. They said, Sam, we're in. Reached out to Ryan Arcidiacono and Max Strus, who were with the Bulls at the time. I was like, are y'all willing to just sit and listen? They said, whatever it is, we're in. Reached out to Diamond DeShields, who played for the Chicago Sky, Lucas Giolito, some players who played at Northwestern, right? All these different people on different teams, but one city. And we said, what if we just came together and listened? And they said, all right, we're in. So it was on a Monday. I was actually in Arizona training, trying to get ready for the upcoming season. And I was driving back to the 4-day road trip back here to Chicago. My wife is from Nigeria as well. And she was just getting her US citizenship. And her appointment, we'd waited 5 years for. Remember COVID, right? It had been scheduled. Well, it got descheduled because of COVID. So you're shaking our head, right? Things got descheduled. And then right around the time we decided to come back, it got rescheduled. So I was on my way back, and I was right after George Floyd was murdered and all these things. So I'm trying to process. And we were in St. Louis on our last stop, took this 4-day road trip. And a friend of mine said, Sam, I don't know if you see what's going on the news, rioting and looting. You turn on CNN or whatever station you watch, Fox, you see all this stuff. He said, you got to do something. And so that's when I reached out and called up these people I knew, and we came together. That was on Monday. I called them on Thursday. The 10 of us came to the west side of Chicago, a neighborhood called Austin, and pulled up some chairs like this and just sat in circles and listened. We just listened. It was 10 pro athletes, 10 police officers, 30 kids from the community, South Side and the West Side of Chicago. And we listened. As we sat and we listened, we heard things, right? You heard 15-year-old girls saying, man, 15-year-old Black girls saying, how come it's people like me who always seem like they're the ones getting shot? That's what they were saying, getting killed. We heard police officers say, man, it seems like, our job is to serve and protect. And oftentimes we forget the serve part. That's what they were saying in these conversations. We heard athletes, multimillionaires saying, I thought I'd be immune to all this, but I feel this same pain and I feel what you feel. We listened. And after we listened, we decided to take a tour of the West Side of Chicago. See, we all live in, the suburbs, and then, we live in, facilities in Lake Forest. So we live in Vernon Hills and Highland Park and all these things. We might pop in, pop out, but we decided, let's actually get close. Let's lean in, let's get curious and find out a little bit more. And so after that, about an hour or so of listening, we got on a bus and took a tour of the community. And yes, because we wanted to see, is it stuff on TV? Is it real, right? Oh, Chicago, but is it real? And we did see buildings boarded up. We saw broken glass. We saw these things, but what was even more telling, I was on that bus and I saw Jason Hayward, right, the World Series champion, Chicago Cubs, right, first World Series in about a century. And he's looking out the window, pondering. And I think I saw what he saw. Because I said, hey, Jason, we've been on this bus for 5, 10 minutes, maybe 15 max. I said, how many liquor stores have you seen on our 15 minutes in this community? At that point, it's probably 5 minutes in the community. He said, over 10. I said, okay, great. How many grocery stores have you counted? He said, maybe 1. So there was something beneath what we all had seen, and we didn't realize it until we got close. 1 grocery store, over 10 liquor stores. Went back and did a little bit of research. We found out that in a half-mile radius in this neighborhood, in Chicago, our home, there's 2 grocery stores and 17 liquor stores. We said, that's a problem. So we started thinking, what if we could do something about it? We went there initially we went there just to go and we found out there was something deeper. And so I'd be remiss if I left this out. There was one of the young girls was on that bus as well. She's from that community, and we were driving back, right? We took our 30-minute, hour-long tour. We're getting ready to get off the bus and get back in our cars with our police escorts or whatever and go back home. And before we departed the bus, she got on the microphone, the speaker, and she said, hey, I know some of y'all see this as a field trip to come and check out our community and leave. But a lot of us choose to live here. We choose to call this place home. So I hope you'll remember that when you go back to your homes. And we did. So we got off that bus, and the very next week, we went back again and sat down with these kids, 15, 16, 14, 13-year-old kids, with an idea. Because we had this idea of what if we could actually purchase a liquor store? Because my thing is use what you have, right? We're athletes, we have money, we have influence, we have a voice, we have a platform, use what you have. What if we could purchase a liquor store and turn it into a food mart? We were just thinking, but we didn't want to be the ones to lead the charge. We wanted the young entrepreneurs to lead the charge. Don't clap yet, it gets better. It gets better. And so we had that idea, and so we sat down the next week and we asked the kids, hey, we said, and this is important for you. That's why I'm really glad to be sitting here with you all, because you're all the ones who are leading this. We said, hey, where do you get your food from? Because we drove through the community, we didn't see any. Where do you get your food from? They said, oh, Sam, if we want to get food, we go to McDonald's or the gas station. And McDonald's I get, right? I eat McDonald's every now and again. The gas station, come on. Okay, we said, where do you get, you're 15, you're 13, you go to McDonald's. I said, where do you get healthy food from? Where do you get your healthy food? You want something organic, where do you go to get it? They said, Sam, if we want something healthy or organic, we have to commute 45 minutes to a different city. So to your question of because we asked, would you want a food mart in your community? They said, yes, we would love a food mart in our community. So with that, we met, And we met with the young entrepreneur. We call them young entrepreneurs because they're the ones who led the charge. But then on the back end, us athletes got together and said, okay, let's put our money behind this. So within about 2 weeks, we raised $500,000 between 17 athletes. Some of the names you heard wrote $100,000 checks to support what you all do, because they know how important you are. Some guys wrote $75,000 checks to go and buy this liquor store and turn it into a food mart. No, by the way, this liquor store, some of the nonprofit leaders have been trying to purchase this liquor store for 2 decades. And the dude wouldn't sell it because business was booming. But all of a sudden, COVID happened, right? Business shut down, people had broken in, and he was finally willing to listen to an offer. We actually paid him above what it was worth. Raised the money, bought the liquor store, but like I said, every single week we kept on showing up. So we said, okay, what do you want it to look like? Like if you could dream, like what would you want it to look like? What kind of food would you want? What kind of, they said, we want, fresh food. We want organic food. So what else? We want flowers, right? We want this, he said, because one of the young girls said, ever since this nonprofit, there's a nonprofit, and right next to the nonprofit was a liquor store. So every time they came back, it was an after school program. Every time they came back from school, they had to walk by this liquor store right next to this beautiful nonprofit. One of the young girls, that same girl on the bus, her name was Azaria. She said, ever since this nonprofit came into my community, she said, my community's felt a lot homier. Imagine that, one building in your community. She said it felt homier. So my thought was, well, if we could just get that liquor store turned into a food mart, that'd make a nice kitchen, right? So we met, they started dreaming and designing and planning. We brought in architects to help try to see what you could build. And so after about 4 weeks of meeting, raising money, we had what was called a liquor store tear down party. I love parties. And the cool thing about it, you talk about all of you all coming together, right? First of its kind, right? Not only growers, suppliers, right? Farmers markets, all coming together. Well, we did the same thing. I played in the NFL, but I also was a representative for the NFL Players Association. So I was one of the vice presidents who negotiated the collective bargaining agreement, owners and players. So I got a chance to know Roger Goodell, who's the commissioner of the NFL. We invited Roger Goodell, and he showed up. See, his wife is from Chicago, and they'd heard about all the social justice stuff, and COVID, it just kind of slowed down. Things were opening up. He showed up. We invited the mayor, Lori Lightfoot, to our liquor store teardown party. She showed up. We invited the superintendent of the Chicago Police Department, David Brown. He showed up. Invited members of the community, invited athletes, and they all showed up to this liquor store teardown party. So we tore down the liquor store, and about 7 or so weeks later, built up this pop-up mart. And so what it was after school, right? Because the kids were going to be the ones to run it. After school, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 2 to 6 p.m., fresh food, groceries, flowers, et cetera. And they decided to call it Austin Harvest. So the communities call it Austin. They called it Austin Harvest. So that's how that story began.
How does it look today?
Great question. So this was in June of 2020, tore the liquor store down, built up just a pop-up mart, right? Essentially just after open air, fresh market. Well, we all live in Chicago or Illinois, we know it gets cold in the winter. And so initially the thought was, okay, we'll do this 10-week program, had this government grant that would pay the kids, right? Because summer jobs were canceled. So this is going to be your summer job, 10 weeks, boom, boom, boom. And the thought was, well, we probably got to close down in the winter. We talked to the young entrepreneurs. We said, well, do you want to close down? They said, Sam, no, we want to stay open. We want to keep this thing going. We love working here. This is our dream. It brings us life, brings us joy. And so they said, what if we could make it permanent? And so we did temporarily kind of close for the winter, but then what we did the next year is we brought even more people together. We partnered with 670 The Score, local Chicago the news station of the Cubs, and maybe the Bulls and some other teams. You know better than I, Rita. Yeah, all the sports teams. But anyways, maybe you don't.
I-
I have to know. I'm the athlete.
Even
So,
the station, GN
yeah,
or,
the station.
Yeah.
WBN. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, so we did a 24-hour radiothon to raise money to make that temporary pop-up mart into a permanent one. And during that time, yes, we raised the money, and now it'll actually be open this spring, like permanent facility. They've been doing it the pop-up at a different location, but now permanent, but also different people started to come and join us. So Jewel Osco said, hey, we heard what you're doing. We have a locally grown initiative. We want to provide all the food to you at cost. So they showed up. We worked with the government. We found out that there aren't that many in that neighborhood. There's really only like one other like quote farmers market in Austin. And so they actually gave us credits to become like a farmers market. Right. So all these different members of the community started to come together. And so now it's actually the process of that permanent facility being built, which should open, I said, in March or so. And now it's going to be like open year round where these young entrepreneurs can work. And they've already added, first it was 10 young entrepreneurs. They have 15 now, and they're adding new people to the team as people get older. And so that's what that place became. But it began not even as a dream. It really began in despair. And we didn't know what we had, and we didn't know what we needed until we got close to the issue. And then once we got close, we started seeing people show up who wanted to be a part of what we were doing.
and we want to talk about your book, and we'll open it up for questions
Yeah.
from the audience, but can this be replicated across the country?
Yeah, we believe so. And that was kind of the whole thought process and the mindset. We said, okay, what if we could do this here in Chicago and in Austin, and maybe replicate this model across the country? So around that time, me and some teammates and some friends, we kind of said, what if we did a nonprofit, and we called it like Athletes for Justice, right? Like local athletes coming together and fighting for causes like this around the nation. And so the whole thought was, let's do it in Chicago first, and then see if it can be replicated in different parts of the country. So we've talked with people from Minnesota who have heard what we're doing, said, we want to do the same thing. And Baylor University, they heard about what we were doing. They said, hey, Sam, can you come share with us how you're doing that? So we believe it can be replicated. And that's kind of why we're so focused on doing this well. But I don't know. All I know is that like when I see people come together like they did here, I think they can do that anywhere.
Okay, so before we started the program this morning, you and I talked, and I told you that in the night I was just thinking about, let the dog out to go to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, couldn't go back to sleep. So thinking about different things, and that saying came into my mind. I'm sure someone famous or a leader said this, I hope, but it's just a hungry nation cannot thrive. And I told you that, and you have all this energy and you have fame, but your heart is what resonates with that saying. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Rita mentioned this quote, a hungry nation cannot thrive. And if you just stop and think about that for a moment, I think about our most basic needs for humans: food, water, clothing, shelter. Like these are like everyone, whether you're rich or poor, they need these things. And so talking about what we were able to do, it's like we thought we were going to help solve some super crazy, complicated idea and just change all these things. And all we needed was food. All we needed was food. All these people in this community needed was food. But the whole reason behind Austin Harvest, well, food provides hope. It provides like a table where a community can come together. People from that community were starting to come together, learn how to, they didn't know how to, what are these organic foods that we taught them. What you all do, and maybe you realize it, maybe that's why you got into this thing, like you all are providing hope and healing for people who need it, and you may not even realize it. Without food, I mean, you can't even, I played pro sport, I played in the National Football League. Nutrition was everything at the highest level. I've been to communities and overseas in developing countries. Nutrition is everything at the lowest level. No matter where you go, we need you. And so my thought has been, as I've been thinking and sitting and preparing and chatting with some of you, like, what if we could just come together? You saw athletes come together from the Cubs, the Bulls, the Bears, the Blackhawks, the White Sox, the Chicago Sky, like one Chicago. What if we could come together? Suppliers, distributors, growers, community members, government members, and be one Illinois. Think about, I mean, like, sure, you could talk about like economies of scale and talk about distribution and all those things, but like, we're all here now. I don't know what problem there is to solve, but I'm confident the people at these tables, if you like look at them and talk to them and get to know them and sit with them, like we've built in, Regella's built in so much time for us just to like spend time together. Once you like connect in this community around this table, around food, right? That's what food does. I think we'll be able to find out how to solve a lot of Illinois' issues. It starts with coming together. And oftentimes that starts with a table, starts with food.
Right. Your book.
Yeah.
Who urged you to write the book? This is your second.
Yeah.
Tell us about the first and now about this new book.
Yeah. So my first book is called Let the World See You: How to Be Real in a World Full of Fakes. And that book really was, it was birthed out of, I think, this idea that a lot of us, like, we don't know how to be honest with ourselves. We put on these fronts and I wear these nice suits and these shoes and all these things, but like at our hearts, there might be places and spaces where we're broken or hurting, or maybe even better, there might be really things and people we want to go and help and serve, but no one else is doing it. So we're just going to stay in our lane and climb the corporate ladder and figure it out later. But I believe at our core, I think like when you're you, I think three things happen. Number one, I think God gets the glory. I think the people around you benefit. I think the world around you thrives. So like, let the world see you. Part of me and part of my story came from these different worlds. I would grow up and go to the south side of Dallas and see honey buns and donuts for 25 cents, but oranges and anything healthy or organic was $3 or $4. I'm 6 years old and it's not adding up. Then I went to my school, neighborhood of my school, and you see, you don't even see the honey buns or the cinnamon. You don't even see that. And I'm watching TV and hearing about unhealthy foods and stuff. And I'm like, how come in this neighborhood, they, like, it's like this is pushed on them, but in where I grew up now, I don't even, it's like apples are 75 cents and $1. It didn't make sense. And something inside of me wanted to do something, but I was like, well, maybe it's not for me. Now I think I'm finding my, you said superpower or superhero. What was it? Super strength, something?
Right.
Super Saiyan? I don't know. So that was my first.
Super Sam, I like that. Is that hashtag? Can we get that started today?
But my next book, which actually is, so it's actually available for pre-order now. There's 60 copies that like the publisher actually sent advanced copies. So anyone who goes outside and scans the QR code, there might be one up there, but there's a QR code outside. You'll be able to actually get one of the advanced copies. I'll sign it and all those things. That book is called Change Starts With You. Change starts with you. Following your fire to heal a broken world. And in that book, I talk a lot about what I'm sharing with you today, how we've felt and experienced brokenness. And I didn't think it, it's like, I'm a football player. What am I supposed to do? I don't know about food. I don't know, I like to eat it, but like, I don't know about building and bringing people together. I'm a football player. But all of a sudden, like this person with this burden brought people together and saw a community changed. And then some of you all came alongside and helped with that change. What change do you want to see? And I think we need to stop thinking that someone else can do it. It may start with you and the person sitting next to you. Not only on the outside, but on the inside in our families, in our communities, in our marriages, in government. We all complain and complain and complain. It's like, well, what if you could be the change? Talk about these commitments and like we follow through. What if you're the one who follows through? Those are the things that I think about. So the book is called Change Starts With You, and it talks about, as we mentioned, some of what you heard, but really about this idea that A lot of the change that we hope to see is on the other side of risk. And oftentimes that risk isn't that far away. You may just be one seat away or one conversation away or one person away from seeing this whole community change. So the book's, there's, like I said, it comes out in March, but if you go and pre-order it, first 60, I think they sent 60 copies. So the first 60 people can get one now. And then also there's other, pre-order offers. You get the first chapter if you pre-order it now. So I'll be outside hanging and talking more as well, but that's what it's about. And that's another reader quickly, superpower, right? Like I didn't know I was a writer. It took me tearing my pec and I remember breaking my leg in football. We can talk more about that later, but like, that's when I realized, oh, wow, like I love to write, process these things, right? What are the things that you love to do that you may be hiding and maybe not showing and sharing?
Regella, are we ready for questions? And do you want to open it up for questions? If you just want to raise your hand, Regella will come to you.
So we already had one online, so we're going to start with that
Yes.
question, and then we'll do the other audiences. Experimental Station, who runs our SNAP Double Bucks program, said they would love to connect with you about setting that up for the program. How can they connect with you?
Yeah, so I can, I think the best thing is I can give you like an email address or even, I'll just I don't know if I can do this. I'm gonna give you all my phone number. You can reach out and I can connect you with the right people if that works. So if you want to write it down or they want to write it down, it's 630
630
650
650
8231.
8231. So use that number and he will connect you with the people for that program.
Yeah, and one of the cool things, Regella will remember this. So I got a chance to speak a couple months ago. We were talking about food insecurity and food injustice. And after speaking, I got a chance to connect a few people with Austin Harvest. And so if you want to connect, feel free to shoot a text there. I can, I'll connect you with the right people if you want to join what we're doing.
Question over there.
Yeah.
While she gets over there, I was going to ask you, who's your favorite coach? Who's your best coach?
Those are separate questions.
Oh,
favorite
sorry.
and best. I don't have favorite coaches that were nice to me, but the best ones weren't always the nicest. So I'll give can I give 3? No?
Sure.
Okay. So Will Muschamp actually is the co-defensive coordinator for the Georgia Bulldogs, the team that just won the national championship. And see, one Georgia fan, go Dogs. They were barking. They were, ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm like, is this a real thing? Like, they were all barking, and I barked too. I decided to join the thing, bandwagon. Well, Coach Muschamp was a great coach, mainly because like he wouldn't accept anything below excellence. And I've never named him as one of my favorite coaches, but 2 things happened. Number one, like he forced us to be excellent every single day. Every morning we had meetings at 6 a.m. And I mean, he'd be like yelling and screaming at 6 a.m. Like, I'm like, do you sleep? Like, but another thing that happened too was, I don't know if I've shared this story, and I don't know how cool of a story it is, but in college I played defensive line. So I was like hand in the dirt, hitting guys. But in the NFL, they were thinking, hey, maybe you can go play a different position, outside linebacker, where you're dropping into coverage and covering people. Well, I never did that in college. Well, apparently some of the scouts of the NFL didn't know if I could do it. And so what Coach Muschamp decided to do was the last game of the season, he moved me from defensive line to outside linebacker just to show the NFL scouts that I could do it, to put it on tape. So he cared about me. He actually and I didn't realize it until after the fact. I'm thinking, like, why are you moving my positions? I was going to be the best. And I didn't realize until probably a decade later that the only reason he did that was to help advance my career. This guy who'd be like yelling and screaming and banging on the boards and wanted to help me. And I thanked him the day before the game. I gave him a big hug. Like, I didn't realize how important he was to me. And I thanked him. I remember I texted my mom or called my mom and said, hey, I saw Coach Muschamp. She said, oh, tell him I say hi. I was like, he's mean. Do you not remember? So I went the next day and I told him my mom said hi. And so, but he was probably one of my favorite coaches. I'm gonna stop at 1 because that was a long story.
Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for everything you just talked to us about. Matthew Ruffy with Chicago Market. It's a co-op opening up in Chicago. First, I love that it's harder to tell who your favorite coach is than to hand your phone number out to hundreds of strangers. That's an interesting one. So awesome about making the food available to everyone. What else are you doing? How are you educating people on how to use that food? How to bring good quality food into their daily lives instead of just being at McDonald's or the gas station food? How are you helping to help them to understand, here's where you go and then here's what you do with it?
Yeah, so Matthew's question, thank you for that question, was, man, it's great that you're providing the food, but how do you educate people on what to do with the food or where to go and get food? And so that was one of our biggest things with the young entrepreneurs. They said, hey, some of our parents don't even know what organic means. They don't know how to make certain foods. Like, so what if we could actually provide places and spaces to help educate people in our community on how to eat healthy, why it's important to eat healthy, what is healthy, what's not healthy, right? They, they don't know. Even juices, how do you and so what the young entrepreneurs have been doing is, I don't know if it's every month or every few months, they hold these educational sessions with people in the community where you come and you teach. They have their partners who come and teach people in the community how to make a healthy meal and how to, ration and portions and where to go to get healthy food. Now in these communities, you understand there aren't many places to get healthy foods. If I'm sure you've seen, it's every corner is a liquor store. So there's not really that much access. So now we're not only trying to build access, but also help people understand this is why it's important to change your diet, what it can do with life expectancy, et cetera. And so it's really not me, Matthew, it's really the young entrepreneurs, these 15 and 16-year-olds who are educating their community. Because I think, as you all understand, like, part of it's access, other part of it's education. And then once you have the access, you have the education, then it's about doing something. That was the whole reason I wrote the book. Like, one of my mottos has always been like, man, let's freaking go. Like, let's go. Maybe it's a football thing, but like, let's go. Like, we've done so much listening, and listening is great, but sooner or later you have to go from listening to actioning. And that's always been like my thing. And so educate, huge, but sooner you got to activate. So that's kind of where I try to live. Thank you.
Hi, Sam. Thanks for coming out. I'm from Will County, Illinois, and our city is Joliet, and we experience a lot of the same things that are happening in Chicagoland. And like, it's so great what you did, but you had a bunch of names and a bunch of money behind it. So I want to jump on your coattails because we need help. We have these organizations, we've been working 10 years and the partners are out there, but like, without funds, we need our partnership to help to stretch our dollars.
Yeah.
And so the need is there everywhere. And this is, something COVID did bring out immensely. And so we saw the need and the lack of access and the generationally disinvested communities having the worst outcomes. So I just want to thank you for this, but I want to also say, hey, remember the name Kathy Pecora, because I'm going to be reaching out to everyone here because we need help.
Yes. And Kathy, thankfully, I know a guy who's in government who can help you with some. Talk about some fun. There was a guarantee about some money. I heard like a couple $100 million.
I want to echo that. And I also thank the Farm Bureau for your involvement because, and I'm just going to say it, this is somewhat out of the traditional lane of what's happened in the past. So my motto I was in the military, I was in the first Gulf War, is improvise, adapt, and overcome. And the first thing, to your point, when you see a problem, you have to recognize it and learn to pivot.
Yeah.
And then you adapt and the action is overcome. And getting us all in this room together, honestly, it's a major step.
Yeah.
I can tell you, and for anybody that knows me, for me to say it, I mean it. I'm committed. And when I said earlier, use us as a conduit, help us break down some of the barriers and help us understand by acknowledging what some of those are. I think we all sometimes know about those things in the back of our mind, but talking about it and networking and just breaking down those barriers is important. So thank you for being here. And I appreciate you saying that. And, if you don't stand up and you don't ask, I tell people all the time, hey, at the end of the day, just be forward, ask. You'd be amazed at how many people are willing to help if you just ask and you acknowledge what's going on. People like you who are in so many ways so fortunate in life, but you're just such a great person giving back. So thank you.
No, thank you. And Kathy, to your point, and even to, to his point as well, during the last couple of days, I was in Los Angeles for the national championship, and I was covering the game. We were covering the game, and I got a chance to meet Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, he's now in the College Football Hall of Fame and played in the NFL, played baseball, all these things, and super like famous and millions of followers and all the things. And I'd admired him from afar, but I didn't know him. Like I'd seen him from afar. I talked about him on TV, but I didn't know him. We'd hoped to play him in the national championship, but we lost one of our games and they didn't. So neither here, I'm not bitter at all. Not bitter. I wanted to tackle him when I'm kidding. And I remember I was with my brother as well. And like before I saw Tim, I was with my brother, and someone came up to my brother who, is awesome and does stuff. And they're like, "Hey, are you Sam Acho?" to my brother. My brother's like, "Oh, no, that's him," like pointing at me. And instead of me like using my gifts and doing what I usually do, which is like, "Oh, hey, good to see you," or whatever, I ignored this person. I almost shunned this person. And I saw them, and this man and his wife, I think it was, like walk away, like sad. And they didn't come to me, but they came to him. And I could have easily been like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm Sam." I didn't. And a few moments later, I was connecting with Tim Tebow, who's got, as I mentioned, like Heisman Trophy, national championships, College Football Hall of Fame, like multi-million followers, all these things. And every single person that came up to him, he stopped, he said hi, took a picture, whatever they needed. I mean, we went back to the hotel and more people, and finally after we were talking for about an hour or so about life and things. And it's like, "Hey man, if we would have played you guys, would have beaten." I didn't say that. But finally, like it was late and another person came up and said, "Hey, Tim, can you come and say hi to this person there, the CMO of XYZ? And he's like, yeah, sure." And I knew he was tired. He would say, "Man, I'm tired, And so as I'm walking away to my room to go to sleep, he's walking towards there. I said, "Tim, why are you going over there? Why?" He said, "You're tired. Why are you doing it?" He said, "Because I said I would, and it's the right thing to do." And he said, "No, by the way, maybe God will get the glory out of that conversation." That was what he said. And lo and behold, like he went, and I kind of left. I actually started talking to somebody else before, and I saw him after. And I guess people who know me know I'm like a person of faith. So, whatever. I saw him after. I said, "How was the conversation?" He said, "It was great. The lady, big wig at whatever company." And she said to all the ESPN executives, "Hey, I love the fact that you have Tim on your network. I love that he stands up for his faith. Like y'all made a great hire or whatever." You know what I mean? And so like, he was like, God got the glory out of that. And so to what we were just talking about, sometimes you just do the right thing because it doesn't, like, you don't have to overcomplicate it. He said he would, and it's the right thing to do. Like I said I would, and it's the right thing to do. You said you would, and it's the right thing to do, right? I may not, you say, "Well, Sam, we need all these athletes." Like, I'm not playing anymore, so these athletes may not respond to my calls anymore, you know what I mean? But like, there are people in your community, Kathy, who may want to help. There's government grants that are available, right? It may not be me. It may be the guy sitting next to you haven't talked to yet, the guy on the other side of this room who says, "You know what, I got something for you." I was talking with someone, he's like, I'm a supplier for fertilizer. I'm sure somebody in here may need to talk to him. Said I would, and it's the right thing to do. I think if we took that approach, and maybe God will get the glory out of it. Like my whole book, that's what my whole book's about. The change that we want to see, like, I think, for me, most importantly, like God will get the glory out of it. But all of a sudden, I'm like, when that food mart was built, and we opened Austin Harvest, what used to be a liquor store, police officers said they would avoid that area, that part of town, because of all the activity. Like they told me that. And after it was built, they said, "Man, this place has gotten a lot quieter." That was like one of the best days of my life. Like best day of my, you think I'm kidding? I'm serious. Wedding day was like day number one, right? Very happy. The day my first child was born, second best day. And when Austin Harvest was built, it felt like heaven on earth. When we come together, you and me and him, you know what I mean? Like, and you too, report about it. We can build heaven on earth, and you're the people that can do it. You provide the most essential resource that everyone needs. And all that's keeping us from doing it is not having a conversation with somebody on the other side of the table or the other side of the room. So like, that's my charge. Be a part of building something that will be so much more beneficial than you could ever imagine. Dreams can come true. And Kathy, to your point, like I couldn't have even dreamed or imagined what we did. I didn't know Lori Lightfoot, but somebody in our community did. Somebody from the nonprofit did. I didn't know the police superintendent, but happened to find out he knew my dad. I was doing a Zoom because of COVID and stuff, and I invited, he showed up. I wasn't close with Roger Goodell. The only reason he texted me is that I did a video with somebody I was close with, the chairman of the Chicago Bears, George McCaskey, about like black and white and union and ownership and all these things, labor. And Roger Goodell happened to see it and texted me. Talk about this in the book. I got a text from a number I didn't recognize saying, hey, great job with the video with George. That was really impressive. And they signed off RG. I'm like, who signs off RG, right? First of all, number one, I don't know any RGs, number two. So I'm like, I was gonna, and that's the thing, like I was gonna, like the person who walked away, I was gonna ignore the text. Because it's kind of awkward, like, hey, who is this? Who this?
New phone.
You said a couple who this text, Rita? Okay. And yeah, new phone, who. And so, but I didn't. I said, hey, thanks so much for this message. I don't know who this is. I'd like to know, who is this? And the person says, oh, Sam, so sorry for the confusion. This is Roger G. I'm saying like, bro, who is Roger G? I don't like, tell me your name. Tell me your name. I don't know. So I'm like thinking, like, who else would call George McCaskey by their first name, right? Like, oh, this is Roger Goodell. So what I could have done is just said, okay, thanks, see you later. But I said, you know what? Hey, Roger, thanks for the text. Would love to have a conversation, right? Different sides of the table about ways we can make the game better and more diverse. About coaches and stuff, That one message was the reason that the commissioner of the NFL came to Chicago, to Austin, with his team, with his people, did this whole Inspire Change initiative, right? So the NFL donated money. We're working on another project on the west side of Chicago, this like a sports complex. NFL put money behind that because of one conversation. So the next time you get a text, Kathy, and they just sign off like a RG, don't be afraid. Yeah. Just be like, new phone, who this? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Julie and I'm born and bred South Side. And my wife and I moved to the Southland where is a giant food desert. But we live in a little bit of an oasis where we have a great community gardening program. But we put forth efforts to bring a local food system to our area, connecting growers, because we're a little closer. Our town actually intersects on the county line. It breaks our town in half between Will and Cook. So we're close to farmland, sort of. What did you find most effective for getting the word or the message out there, getting people to see what you're doing and come and participate? Because that's our biggest challenge. Because you're so busy fulfilling Maslow's hierarchy of needs that you don't pop your head up to fit one more thing in. It's easier to drive through than to stop and sort your food.
So good. So good. Julie, right? So Julie said, man, Sam, all this sounds great. But our biggest need is like marketing, advertising, like awareness. What did you do? honestly, Julie, like I couldn't really say I did anything. And here's what I mean by that. Like when we first started meeting with some of the people in this community, we didn't want it to be like this big old show, like, hey, look at all these pro athletes, they're going, they're helping all these poor people. So we said, let's just kind of keep it quiet, like SEAL Team 6. That's what we did. But then finally we said, we're gonna try and find a way and find a day to really like blow this up. And so we invited all the media, Rita and her colleagues, we invited all these people and they showed up, and it ended up having like over 1 billion impressions, which would have been over $1 million in marketing for free. I didn't call, oh yeah, I did call WGN. You want me to call WGN? You want me to call Rita? Can we call? Yeah, so I think that's part of it. That's part of it. But the other part too is, if I'm not mistaken, there are marketing executives in this room. Like there are people, see some people down there, there are people, like it's not just, you know, the growers and suppliers of fertilizer. There are people who help nonprofits, people who do marketing in this room. It's not easy to do what you do, because you're like, head down, I'm gonna go. And no one's gonna stop me. No one's gonna stop us. And it's worked, but it's not sustainable. You need a team. You need people. And it's more than just a text message or a call to WGN. You need someone who can like see what you're doing or believe in what you're doing, or maybe who has already done it for someone else. And I believe that person's in this room. That's why we're all here together. And so I'll say, take the time that we have a couple hours, that's just like free time. Either try to find that person or that person will find you. That make sense? Thank you. Yeah.
Sam, thank you for coming here and joining us today. My name is Chris Vick. I'm the director of the University Farms at Southern Illinois University. We have a sustainable farm on our farm there, and we're very active in trying to work on urban agriculture and sustainability. My question to you is, you're interacting with a lot of kids from these urban areas.
Yeah.
And I'm also a proud member of Illinois Farm Bureau. One of our things we're trying to do in Illinois Farm Bureau is span the urban-rural divide. So my question to you is, what do we need to do to get these kids interested in ag careers? Because we can get them in, we can teach them about nutrition, we can teach them about those kind of things and how to use the food. But what we really need to do is teach them to grow it, to work in, genetics, plant pathology, things like that. So we really need these kids to get into ag careers.
And it was Chris?
Yes.
So Chris asked, what can we do to get some of these kids in these urban neighborhoods in agricultural careers? Chris, they don't know about agricultural careers. So they need you to show them up in their neighborhood and tell them like that. And that's what's happening. Like people are coming and teaching and educating. Like I think that if I could just be straightforward, like that's it. Well, then you're like, second question, well, how do I get there? Like, I don't know anybody in Austin or in, Inglewood or whatever. Well, there are people who two things. Number one, like sometimes it's the easiest showing up. Crazy as it sounds. Sending an email, finding a nonprofit, right? One of the ones I work with, By the Hand Club for Kids, right? Like if you want to find out more, it's called just bythehand.org. They're in all these neighborhoods you're talking about. That's who I partner with. Say, hey, I want to learn. I want to educate. I want to mentor. How can I do that? So you are totally, like you hit the nail on the head in that a lot of the people in these neighborhoods don't know about agriculture careers and the opportunities there. But how can they know if you don't tell them? And I'm like you, Chris, and so like that burden's on your heart, and that's a great one. It's a heavy one. And oftentimes we have burdens on our hearts, and then we sit on our hands and we wonder when it's going to happen. And I think what you and I need to do is to keep the burden on our hearts and then get off our hands. And then it kind of hurts a little bit, then get up and go. And it physically, sure, but like I said, an email, Like I said, like By the Hand is one of the nonprofits. There's a few other ones I can share with you that are in these neighborhoods that actually would love. Right, I was on the phone right before we started. I was on the phone with somebody who runs some of these nonprofits. I didn't talk to her about this, but she would love to hear from you. I'd love to have you and you come and mentor or teach. Love that, Matthew, for you to come and teach them.
Oh, another question right here.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming here, Sam. It's really a pleasure to have you here. My name is Eve. I am here in Springfield. I'm the founder and the manager of a non-for-profit organization. And I'm just going to add to, please say your name?
Chris.
Yes, there's really a big problem. Chris just mentioned it. I am also a student in the art department. And there's kind of a problem of a perception, like not only perception toward the art industry, but also perception toward the food, healthy food. I would like to know, what is the secret, or what advice will you give to any person who is working right away in undeserved community, like what I'm doing, what my organization and people that I'm working with are doing? What is the advice that you will give to us to help change the perception toward healthy food, and also trying to bring more minority into the art business?
Yeah. So Eve is your name, right?
Yes.
So Eve asks, hey, what are ways to help, especially if you work in underserved communities, change the perception of the ag business? I think, if I can be honest, like relationships are everything. And what I mean by that is, if you're working in these underserved communities or want to be working in these underserved communities, don't just show up once. The biggest thing for me, why some of these young entrepreneurs trust me and want to spend time with me, is that they know I'm not just doing it for the cameras. I'm doing it because I care. And so, like Eve, if you work there and you continue to show up, or Chris, if you show up and then continue to show up, all of a sudden there will be a little bit of, like, it'll start off with some friction, then those walls will break down. Then you could not only share with them the opportunities, but like provide the opportunities. There's going to be, I mean, I was going to like do some breaking news in TV.
We need a drum roll or?
No, not breaking news, but like, for example, like in the NFL, there's a problem with hiring minority candidates, right? So they created this rule called the Rooney Rule. We have to interview at least one minority candidate, right? Minority, or like a female candidate. But even with this rule, it's still, 29 white coaches and 1 Hispanic and 2 Black coaches. Like, that's just for the last 20 years. The most of the world was 6 and went back down to 3. And so it's like, Sam, what can we do? And it's like, the Chicago Bears hired not only the best candidate when it comes to general manager, but a minority candidate. George McCaskey did that, chairman of the team. There have been rumors about them hiring a new president or CEO. Happens to be a minority, right? A Black, that's the rumors. I'm not breaking any news yet, but if y'all hear it, tweet me. So like, my whole point is, like, you can be the one to bridge that gap. Like, Eve, you can do it. Chris, you can do it. Julie, Kathy, Matthew, Rita, Sherry, like, we can be the ones to do it, but we can't do it alone. See how you're standing? You're standing alone. Imagine if everyone else stood up with you. I'm not gonna make y'all do that. I was thinking about it, but I said, let me just kind of later. It would look really cool, but it's not worth it right now. Like an army, 1, maybe 2, then it turns to 3, then 300. And so, to answer your question, relationships, and then you be the one to provide those ag jobs. You run your nonprofit, maybe you have someone come and shadow you, right? Chris, your company, Julie, hey, come and work with us and provide an opportunity. And it seems like it's just one person, but that one person matters. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Please, 2 seconds. I want to call all community members here, all leaders of organization. We are here in Springfield. We want to work with all of you.
Yeah.
Please reach out to us, and we really want to work. You said it, Sam. This is the right thing to do. connect with people.
Yeah.
Someone sitting next to you. So thank you very much. Maybe I have 100 people here sitting next to me, or 1,000 or two.
Yeah.
I want to work with any person. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you, Eve.
One more question.
Okay. Hey, Sam, good to have you here. I'm Dakari Howard from Chicago Food Policy Action Council. The question that I have is that oftentimes when we see urban food initiatives like pop up within like underserved urban communities, the big idea is that we have like food mobilization and access, but it's also a ton of like sub narratives that's happening. So like violence interventionist, education, visibility, et cetera. And you mentioned something about you all took over a liquor store. And so it was like 1 out of 17 within that neighborhood. That's the cultural like identification. And it's not unique to like Chicago or any like West Side community, but like nationally in any underserved urban area, that's the motif. So that's a product of like you all serving as an agent of change. But I just want to know specifically, like what kind of changes have you seen since like buying that liquor store? And how do you all want to like make that an infectious thing that like we're also like promoting healthy, sustainable food hubs and just like, just promoting that visibility and like, what do you all want to see like happen this year?
Yeah. So Dakari asked, essentially, you all built one thing and it's great, but what do you want to see happen? Is that right? And also some of the sub narratives, right? So I think one of the coolest things, Dakari, is that I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew I was angry. I was sad. Like I was on a Zoom call the night before we did all this stuff that I heard, oh, Sam, you do all this great. I was on a Zoom call hearing from community members, from underserved communities, from urban areas, Black people, you're Hispanic, whatever you want to say. And like on this call, they were saying, some of the community members, and these are like, some of these people are people of faith. They're like, man, I don't know if it's okay to say, but I'm questioning my faith right now. One of the members, he served in the military as well, a Black man. He said, I went to war for this country, like out to serve and protect this country. And it seems as if this country has turned its back on me, is what he said. I heard all these things and I'm an emotional, I'm an emotionally intelligent, I cry a lot, emotional person. I remember listening, and I didn't know if I was gonna make it on that call. I remember I was driving back from St. Louis. I didn't know if I was gonna make it. Can you be honest? I don't know. I got on about halfway through. And I don't know if she even knew I was on or not, this lady who runs this nonprofit. And I listened. And at the end, she said, hey, Sam, I don't know if Sam's on, but if you are, can you like maybe say a few words or maybe even like pray for us or whatever. And I didn't know what I was going to say, but the words that came out, to your point, Dakari, was, I said, what if God is allowing this community to be torn down so that he can build it up the way that he wants it? Strip out all that underlying, talk about gang violence and gang intervention, strip out all the liquor store or whatever, and then build it up with community gardens, build it up with fresh fruit. Like, what if that's what's happening? And, I prayed, I ended the call, and then I went to do a podcast with friends. I've been doing this podcast. And while I was on this podcast, the night before all this great stuff that you're gonna read about when you get my book and you heard about, before any of that happened, I wept doing a podcast with my two friends. I start weeping because of all the stuff you're talking about. Like getting healthy food sounds good, or like changing the world sounds good, but I don't even have food to eat. It sounds good. It's, oh yeah, well, COVID, and then there was no toilet roll, and I couldn't get the name brands. There's no name brands in these communities. There's nothing, no brands. So we can complain all we want, but it's like, so I didn't know what it was going to be. I just wept and mourned and felt that burden like Julie talked about. Then I showed up. And then others, Eve, can you stand up? Eve, stand up. And Dakari, can you stand up? And Julie, I thought someone was gonna do it. Julie, can you stand up? Chris, can you stand up? Kathy, can you stand up? Matthew, can you stand up? Can I have everybody like stand up? This, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna be that guy that's gonna wait for everybody to stand up. Like this army formed. And it started with pain. Nobody understands. I could not understand what you all go through. All the work you do, Julie, and it seems like nobody pays attention. Like y'all together. And it seems as if no one cares. I couldn't imagine that. I couldn't imagine, Chris, the burden that you feel where like, you know what people go through. And you know the access that's not there. And you want to do something about it. But it seems like no one else does. And they don't care. The burden of being, like you serve for this country. Now you're representing it, but then people to your right and to your left, they're like black hearts, like hardened hearts. I couldn't imagine that burden, but I do know that when like I'm alone, it's hard. But I have people like with me and in front of me and besides me, it becomes a lot easier. And so to your point, it started off with just me, then it took Dakari with just me, and then a few other athletes. Then all of a sudden we had about 5,000 members, who donated money. That's how this permanent food mart's gonna get built. 4,777 members of the Illinois community and elsewhere donated money to build the permanent food mart. Then it turned into not just food. We started working on something different right now, like health. Now we're building this, it opens ribbon cuttings in like 2 weeks. This state-of-the-art facility in Austin, like the one of a kind, like the only indoor full-size soccer facility in the region. And it's gonna be in Austin. Jason Hayward is building a baseball academy there. The Chicago Fire, the soccer team, they've joined in, like everyone started standing up. And it gets a lot easier when you're doing it together. And so just to answer your question very directly, Dakari, like I do not know what the future holds, but I do know who holds the future. And I do know who the people who can walk, run, march together. Let's not stand up here and then leave Julie alone. You know what I mean? Let's not stand up here and talk about it. Let's be about it. And we can plan it out. We can write it out. Like those things are important. But if you don't do it around a community, it doesn't even matter. We were created for community. We were built. And that's why COVID hurt so much. Obviously, we lost loved ones, but like we weren't meant to be alone. Like that's how we were. Like God designed us for community, relationship. And so let's spend these next few days and next few hours building it. And then we'll see what the rest of that future holds. Maybe it's more gang, violence intervention. Maybe it's something in the arts. Maybe it's more fresh flowers and fresh food. But I strongly believe that the people who can make the change that we want to see are in this room. First time that we're all doing, usually we used to be all segmented and siloed. And now we're all one. So if we could stand out and like march as one, I think it'll be a lot easier. I'm not gonna make y'all march, I promise. We can sit out, you can sit down, everyone can sit down, so that's my answer. Thank you. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sam, Ocho.
Yeah.
So anything else that you want to leave everybody with?
My main message is that change does in fact start with you. It's not someone to your left or to your right. And it's not someone who has better ideas or like a bigger bank account or like a long NFL career or position in the government. I truly believe that change starts with you. You sending that text message, sending that email, taking a risk, speaking up, asking for something so that you can receive something. You started off this, Rita, by saying, man, Sam, how does it feel to be a superstar? And I said, like, I'm just now learning how to fly. Mind you, I played a decade in the NFL. That was just a platform. Got ESPN platform. But like my real calling purpose is to use my wings and fly. So my ask and my charge to you is to see your wings. That's really what it would be. See your wings. Like those things that make you you. Could be the color of your skin, could be the content, right, of your character. Could be the burden that God put in your heart. It could be the pain that you've been through, like from little. See your wings. Don't let anybody tell you don't have them. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do it, that you don't belong, that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not important enough. Agriculture isn't sexy. Use your wings. Because you all have the thing that we all need. Yes, it's your heart, but it's also your hands. Hands, feet. I had a coach who said in football, he said, hey, your eyes take your hands take your feet. So you want to go and tackle somebody, eyes, hands, and feet. We talk about eyes, we all have the hands and the feet. Y'all are goers, doers, movers, shakers, builders, growers, farmers. Don't let this suit fool you. Y'all are the ones doing the work. So my charge and my ask as I get off the stage and go hang out, I'll meet you all in the back, is to use your wings and fly. Thank you.
Let's hear it for him. Sam Acho.